You have been listening for a sentence. Maybe for 20 years. You know the one. 3 little words. The ones the movies end on. I love you. And the men in your life. Decent. Present. Reliable as gravity. Says them so rarely that you could list the occasions from memory. A hospital corridor. An airport gate. The night his father died. In between? Quiet. And inside the quiet lives a question that grows teeth after midnight. If it were really in there, wouldn't he say so? Tonight I want to offer you a different explanation. The problem may not be his heart, and it is not your hearing. You have been listening in one language to a man who speaks a different one. Over the next half hour, I'll show you where that language comes from and give you 5 places to read it. The psychology is Carl Jung's. The list of 5 is mine. And nothing tonight is a trick. Every experiment near the end works better if he knows exactly what you're doing. One more thing. And it's the reason to stay to the end. One of the 5 places holds a signal that cannot be faked at all. Not because men are honest, because of what the signal is made of. I've saved it for last. And once you have it, it changes how much weight you give the other 4. It begins with a sound. 6:10 on a January morning. Still dark. The kind of cold that makes the porch boards crack. And from the driveway comes a rhythm. Scrape. 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 The woman standing in the warm kitchen knows the sound the way you know your own name. Her partner is out there in an unzipped coat, clearing frost off her windshield. Because on Tuesdays and Thursdays, she drives across town at 7 to tutor other people's grandchildren in long division. He has done this every winter for as long as she's had the early shift. He has never once mentioned it. Neither. Come to think of it, has she? Let's call her June, and let me be exact about who June is. Because this channel does not invent witnesses. June is not a woman I've met. She's a pattern wearing a name, assembled from the ordinary evidence of many real lives. And the pattern may very well be sitting at your table right now. June is 59. She never married. She and Walt simply built 21 years side by side, a fact her sister has never made peace with. And her accountant has simply learned to work around. There was no wedding, no anniversary to skip. Just 2 coats on 2 hooks, year after year. And June, lately, has taken up a bad habit. At night, when the house has gone dark, she does arithmetic. She counts the times Walt has actually said he loves her. She can do it on 2 hands, with fingers to spare. She lies there converting 2 decades into a handful of sentences, and the exchange rate feels like ruin. The question this entire video hangs on. Put plainly, is this, on one side of the scale, a handful of sentences in 21 years? On the other, somewhere near 900 dark mornings of scraping. Which one is the message, and which one is the noise? To answer that properly, not sentimentally, properly, we need Jung. Jung's word first. He called it the persona, borrowing the Latin word for the mask an actor wore on the ancient stage. And he meant the face a person constructs in order to meet the world. In his account, the persona is a kind of negotiated settlement between who someone actually is and what their world demands they appear to be. He was emphatic that everyone has one, that we need one, and that it is never his word, the whole of the individual. Jung was describing something that happens in any human life. I want to walk his idea somewhere more particular. What does a persona look like when it's issued to a boy? Think about the workshop that manufactured the men of Walt's generation and, let's be honest, most generations since. Boys don't cry. Toughen up. Shake it off. Feelings are for after the work is done. And the work is never done. Nobody hands a boy that curriculum in a single lesson. It arrives in 10,000 small corrections. On ball fields and in kitchens and from other boys, until it hardens into something I've come to picture as a spokesman, an internal press office. Everything official declarations, confessions. Anything with witnesses and consequences must pass through that office before release. And the spokesman was trained, over decades, to redact. Now the crucial move, and it comes straight from Jung. He observed across his casework that the psyche compensates when conscious life leans hard in one direction. The unconscious leans back the other way. And whatever the conscious attitude refuses to express does not politely evaporate. It builds pressure. It looks for another route out. Now put that principle inside a man whose spokesman censors every official channel, feeling exits through the side doors, through routine, through logistics, through the hands. The press office reviews the speeches. Nobody reviews the frost at 6 a.m. So, if the official channel is redacted, where do you actually read a man? 5 places. My list. His machinery assembled from years of watching how actual households run. I'll give you each place. And I'll also give you the way each one can fool you, because how a person expresses love is bent by temperament, by generation, by culture, by the particular workshop that built him. And no fixed checklist survives contact with a real marriage. A list without its failure modes isn't teaching. It's advertising. Place 1, the archive. Notice what he keeps. Not objects, information. You mentioned in March, in passing, over the sound of the dishwasher, that the new pharmacist was short with you. In August, you noticed the errand now routes to the pharmacy 2 blocks further on, and no explanation has ever been offered. You switched teas a year ago. The right box keeps appearing in the cupboard as if the cupboard itself had adjusted. Your sister's surgery date. The name of the neighbor's dog you like and the neighbor you don't. It's all on file. There is no announcement in any of this. And that is precisely the point. The spokesman handles announcements. Archiving happens off the record, below the office, automatically, and a mind files what it values. You cannot make yourself remember 600 small facts about a person who doesn't matter to you. Attention is the one budget nobody can fake for long. Now, let me hand you a real one, not an invented one. For once, a scene I watched myself. Early one morning, in a coffee shop near a hospital. And I'll keep it anonymous because it belongs to 2 strangers. An elderly couple came in. He barely spoke. He pulled out her chair, took a napkin, and wiped a few drops of water off the table in front of her seat. And when the coffees arrived, he swapped cups, took hers, gave her his because hers had come out hotter. They sat nearly the whole time in silence. The comfortable kind. Only on the way out did she say, softly, "You did it again." And he smiled and said, "Your hands aren't as strong as they were." Think about what that man's archive is holding, not birthdays and anniversaries, but the exact temperature her hands can carry. Updated to this year. Nobody trained him to announce it. Something trained him to track it, and the tracking, not the announcing, is where the feeling lives. And notice, while we're here, what the archive says about the past as well as the present. A man's spokesman may never have produced one sentence about your worst year, but if he can still tell you, unprompted, which month it started and what you wore to the appointment, then somebody in there was paying attention the whole time, taking minutes at a meeting he never admitted to attending. The honest failure mode. Some people simply have flypaper memories for everyone. About everything. Your brother-in-law who remembers every score of every season is not in love with the league. One retained detail is a letter of the alphabet, not a sentence. So don't read a single entry, read the pattern. Is it your details? Disproportionately. That survive? Place 2. The bent calendar. Watch what happens to his time when your circumstances change, not what he says about your circumstances. What happens to his hours? You take the early shift. And without a summit meeting, his alarm quietly moves. Your knee surgery lands in June, and the fishing trip that has happened every June for 11 years lands. Undiscussed. In September, the truck gets serviced the week before your long drive to your mother's. Every year, as if the truck knew, feeling that has been denied a speaking role still gets a vote in scheduling. The calendar is a side door, and it is one of the widest. Because hours are a budget he cannot print more of. A man rearranges his hours around what he is oriented toward. The way a plant leans at a window without ever deciding to. The failure mode here is real, though anyone can rearrange a week to impress. Courtship is full of bent calendars that snap straight by spring, which is why this place only means something across seasons, and why the 5th place on tonight's list outranks it and every other. Place 3. The one unlocked room. Every man with a heavy spokesman carries material that never goes public. The fear about his brother, the thing with his back that he will not call pain, the way his father's voice still lives somewhere in his posture. The failure at 40 he's never framed as a funny story, because he can't. Notice where that material goes, because it goes somewhere. Compensation, again. If you are the only person alive who has heard the 2 a.m. ceiling version of him, not the after-dinner anecdote version, the unedited one, half sentences and long pauses, then you are not merely one room in his life. You are the room where the press office has no jurisdiction. In the framework we're building tonight, being the exception to a man's silence is one of the loudest things he ever says. Place 4. The grammar of the future. This one asks you to listen after all, but not for love words, for pronouns and tenses. When we redo the porch, next winter we'll want the better snow tires. By the time we're too old for these stairs, you appear in his future tense the way a keystone appears in an arch without ceremony, because the picture doesn't hold together without you, and he has stopped being able to draw it any other way. Grammar earns your attention for one reason. A spokesman can withhold 1,000 declarations, but sentence structure is drafted below the office, on the fly, unreviewed, and it leaks the architecture. A man planning a future that quietly, structurally includes you is telling you something no anniversary card is notarized enough to say. And the honest limit, shared logistics, can calcify into habit, especially after decades. Grammar tells you that you are in the structure. It takes the other places on this list to tell you whether you're in it as the keystone or as the furniture. Place 5, the answer to the promise I made you at the start. Repetition, not any single act. The 900th act. Understand what the first 4 places have in common. Each of them, on any given day, can be staged. A detail can be memorized for effect. A calendar can bend for a month. Courtship bends them all the time. Vulnerability can be performed. Some men are virtuosos of the confessional mode. Futures can be spoken beautifully and abandoned by autumn. Every one of those currencies can be forged once. Most can be forged for a season. But there is one raw material no counterfeiter can obtain, and that is accumulated time. Charm can be manufactured in an evening. 900 dark mornings have only one factory. Jung's compensation principle tells us where withheld feeling finds its exit. Plain arithmetic tells us what no pretense can afford to sustain. Anyone can scrape one windshield. Nobody performs 2 decades of them. Unwatched. Unthanked. At 6:10, for an audience that never claps. And in case you suspect that arithmetic only exists in theory, while making this video, I came across a comment from a woman I'll paraphrase to protect her husband. She wrote, "He has never once told her he loves her. And for 27 years, he has gotten up first on winter mornings to warm the car before she drives to work." 27 years. She wasn't complaining. She was testifying. And nobody in that comment section argued with her. Because there is no counter-argument to a quarter century of mornings. So, when you weigh the evidence of your own house, weight it by years. The question was never, did he do a loving thing this week? The question is, what has he been doing? Without commentary. Since before either of you thought to keep score? That's the list. The archive. The bent calendar. The unlocked room. The grammar of the future. And over all of them? Repetition. The signal made of time itself. Hold on to it. Because now I want to take you into the moment where all of this either helps you or it doesn't. One evening, June does what every advice column says to do. She names the need. Over the plates. Voice steadier than she feels. "You never tell me you love me." And Walt looks up, caught. Blinking. A man pulled over for a violation he didn't see, and he says it. "I love you." Correct words. Right order. Prompt delivery. And they land on the table like a receipt. She asked for the sentence. She received the sentence. And she feels worse than before she asked. If you have lived those 2 seconds, you know they can sour a whole week. So, let's run them through the machinery and find out what actually happened. A statement was requested through official channels. The spokesman took the request, drafted the line, cleared it, released it. Everything about it is procedurally valid, and she can feel the procedure. That's what stings. The words arrived translated, on demand, out of his native language into hers. And, like most rushed translations, they arrived stiff, stripped of whatever they'd been carrying in the original. But notice the conclusion those 2 seconds tempt her toward. It's not really in there, and notice why it doesn't follow. Flat delivery is not evidence of absent feeling. Flat delivery is usually the sound of a man operating equipment he was never issued. He is not reading from a blank page. He is reading. Badly. Out loud. From a page written in another alphabet, and the feeling and the fluency are 2 different talents. The workshop that built him drilled one and confiscated the other. That distinction will not fix an awkward evening. What it can do is retire a decade of wrong conclusions drawn from awkward evenings, and if your intuition has been whispering for years that the flatness and the devotion were somehow both real, tonight you have the mechanism that lets both be true. If you are a certain kind of careful viewer, and this channel exists for exactly that viewer, an objection has been building in you for 10 minutes. And it deserves a straight answer rather than a soothing one. It goes, isn't this whole video just teaching women to grade silence on a curve? To translate crumbs into a banquet and then congratulate themselves on being fed? No. And here is precisely where the line sits 2 guardrails. Both firm. First, translation is for reading what exists, not for inventing what doesn't. Run the 5 places honestly. And some of you will get an answer you did not want. The archive is empty, he couldn't tell you what tea you drink. And never could. The calendar never bends your direction. The rooms stay locked to you, while the 3rd drink opens them for strangers. The future comes out singular. And the years, weighed fairly, show a pattern of absence, not a pattern of quiet presence. This framework is not here to soften that result. A negative finding is a finding. It deserves to be treated as information carefully. Maybe with help, but as information. Not as a challenge to squint until it improves. And let me push that first guardrail 1 step further. Because this is a conviction of this channel's, not a footnote. A handful of warm signals cannot buy back disrespect. If the quiet man also dismisses what you say, vanishes when responsibility arrives, or turns every disagreement into whether you have to shelter from, no amount of remembered tea redeems that. Reading signals was never meant to replace the older, plainer question. And I'd rather you leave with the question than with the list. Does his presence make your life steadier and safer, and leave you more respected than you would be without him? The 5 places are instruments for answering that question. They are worthless as a substitute for asking it. Second, his language being valid does not make yours optional. You are allowed to need the words. Needing them is not neediness, it's your native tongue. And a partnership is not one person doing all the translating forever, in one direction, until she forgets her own grammar. A man who loves and acts can learn a few sentences late in life, imperfectly, the way you have spent years learning to read frost on a windshield. The traffic should run both ways. What tonight changes is only the opening position. You will be asking him to learn a second language, not accusing him of having no first one. Those are different conversations. They tend to end in different places. And one boundary that outranks everything else I've said, all of tonight assumes a silence that is merely quiet. If the silence in your house is used as an instrument punishment, control, a fear that has you rehearsing sentences before you're allowed to say them, that is not a language difference. And it must not be translated into something gentler than it is. It needs trained help. First, before any video, including this one, please put this on pause and reach for that help. It will still be here. You come first. For everyone else, 3 experiments, small, honest, and all 3 built to the rule I gave you at the start. Each works better if he knows exactly what you are doing. Nothing here requires the dark. First, keep a phrase book for 14 days. Write down, actually write, the day it happens, every act in your house you would translate as care, however small. The windshield entries, the tea entries, the way the porch light is on when you're the one out late. 2 discoveries tend to follow. Most women find their instrument was miscalibrated, trained to register only the spoken. They have been standing in weather they couldn't feel, and the page fills faster than they expected. And some women find the opposite, 14 nearly blank days, which is its own discovery. The one section 6 was for. Either way, the phrase book does not create love and cannot fake it. It only measures what your ear was missing, in whichever direction it was, missing it. Both results are worth more than the guessing. Second, read one entry back to him. Choose the strongest one and say the translation out loud. In daylight. Unloaded. I noticed the windshield again this morning. I've decided that's you saying you love me. Am I reading it right? Look at what this is not. Not a trap. Not a test. Not a script that collapses. If he sees it coming, you are showing him your dictionary and asking him to check a definition. And the experiment doesn't spoil on contact with daylight, which is how you know it's a request and not a maneuver. Many quiet men, handed proof that the side door language actually landed somewhere, will tell you more in that 1 minute than they volunteered in years. Third, order one sentence in his size. If you need words, and you're allowed to, ask for a specific, small one, and say why in your own language. Once in a while, I need it out loud. Not a speech, one sentence, unprompted, whenever you feel it. You can even explain the whole mechanism to him, spokesman and all. It survives being explained. And when the sentence eventually comes off schedule, a little wooden, at some unromantic moment involving the recycling, resists the audit. Requested words that later arrive freely are not counterfeit. They are a first attempt in a foreign language. And everyone's accent is terrible at the start. Grade the courage, not the pronunciation. No deadlines and no guarantees. Because I am not selling you a renovated husband. What the framework predicts is more modest and, I'd argue, worth more. The midnight arithmetic quiets down because you finally have better numbers. Back to June. 1 February later, she kept the phrase book. It embarrassed her for about 4 days, a grown woman logging tea boxes, and then it stopped embarrassing her. Because the entries kept coming, and the arithmetic began to run the other direction. 26 entries in 14 days. She read them over twice and understood she had been a rich woman keeping her accounts in the wrong currency. So, one dark morning, she chose the second experiment. Walt came in from the driveway with the scraper still in his glove. Cheeks red raw from the cold. And before the coffee had finished, she said it. No preamble. No softening. The windshield. 21 years. I've been reading that as I love you. Did I get the translation right? The pause went on long enough that she nearly rescued him from it. She didn't. And Walt, 62 years old, looked down at the scraper in his hand, as if the answer might be printed along the handle, and said, "It's the only way I know to say it where it comes out right." That's all. Nobody wept. The toast came up. Tuesday proceeded. He was in the truck by 7:40, as always. If you were hoping for violins, I understand, but this channel promised you the truth about quiet men. And the truth is that the breakthrough sounded like one plain sentence and a scraper being set down on the counter. The nights changed anyway. Because the numbers changed. June stopped counting sentences and started counting mornings. And in that currency she has long been a wealthy woman. Some love is read aloud to you. Some you have to learn to read on the page. June spent 2 decades waiting for a voice, and found out she had been holding the book the whole time written in his hand. One dark morning per line. In the original. So, tonight's question for the comments, and only someone who watched can answer it. What is the first entry in your phrase book? The one act in your house you would translate as, I love you. One line is plenty. I read every one. And what you write genuinely steers what this channel makes next. If a particular woman came to mind while you watched someone doing midnight arithmetic across the bed from a quiet man, pass this to her. It may be the dictionary she's been missing. Until next time, keep the book open. The quiet ones write in it every day.